Morning. Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Morning,
Doctor.
doctor.
Yes, morning. Okay. Is the attendance is on the screen. Can you please take it? Okay. It's supposed to be for everyone. It's just not only for the PM people. Okay. I mean, if you think that it's only for the PM people, then you're actually not going to do yourself any good in that sense. Yeah. Because in the end, you all are getting marks together. It's not like only the PM people get marks for PM. Sophia, can you inform everybody, Just ask them to join, They don't have not just the PM people only, They need to know where the problem is, because even if the PM do so well, it will also affect the average. Okay, let's get started. Okay, whoever comes in, you just do your attendance, All right. There's two components here this morning. One is mainly on the questions that we get for IDP 2. Okay. The questions that we get for IDP 2. Okay, because the questions that we get for IDP 1 mainly based on the fact that most people didn't get very good marks, and you felt like you've done what is needed to be done, and yet you're not getting the marks that you think you deserve, you see. And yeah, so we're here to actually answer your question. I think Dr. Lee will be joining me. I think she's probably here already. And also Madam Rahaida, I think she'll be here as well, because we all are, we are all here for you we are very transparent, whatever we give you, we will explain to you if you need us to explain it to you very specifically. But obviously the session time may not permit that. So I would say my group is 1 to 6. The marking that I did, Madam Rahaida one was 7 to 12, and Dr. Lee one was 13 to 18. So you know who is your marker, But generally, the marks that we gave was actually quite standard, because we discussed beforehand, before we do the marking. And maybe there are just some that, the lecturers, maybe they're a bit kinder, and they're not so kind ones, and some of us, maybe we read one report, it's not so bad, so we give like quite good marks. And then after that, after reading like 3 reports with the same problem, some of us get very annoyed, very irritated, and very, very agitated in a way, so the marks tends to be slashed a little bit more. But obviously we also know that we cannot do that, so most of us will stop for a little while after we get annoyed, with the repetitive mistake, and come back to it again. So in that sense, you don't have to worry that we are, if your report is right at the bottom, then you actually at the the lower end of the food chain, that you don't get enough food, that sort of things. Yeah. So no, it doesn't happen. But I mean, there will be some effects, but it's not that strong. Okay. All right. The first part here, like I say, you are curious about what your problem is. Okay, so I will actually read out or try to explain what the lecturers are trying to tell us. Okay, tell you. Okay, what we are all trying to tell you. Okay, based on each individual lecturers. Okay, So starting from group, let's say myself, okay, generally I would say that the 6 reports that I mark are very confusing to me. Okay, it's very confusing to me. I have to search up and down to give you marks, you see. It's the arrangements, it's the flow that is very problematic. I generally felt that way. Okay, I generally see it that way. And from the first report to the 6th report that I've marked, I couldn't see like how the conceptual, like let's say which part is conceptual. And then from conceptual, you gather enough information for you to translate that information into a concept. And that concept is further being described in a better way or in a stronger way in your preliminary design. So it's just like, again, it's like you do demographic studies, you do these socioeconomic studies. It's just basically to fulfill the rubrics. So yeah, so you get the marks, you get like 1 out of 4, because it's that we don't see, it's there, but you don't know what it is for, you see. So that actually in the end makes it like it's there, so we said, okay, it's there. So then the as you go into it, you feel like, oh, okay, it's there, then what's next, you see. So that what next never came, and then it was like just full stop. There you go, Dr. Ting, this is what you asked for, I give it to you, and full stop. So there is no translation, like there's no reporting, there's no way of like maybe a flow chart or some sort of like, let's say we found out the conclusion of demographic studies. We find out these are the points that we find out, and these points here is translated into, or this point here would mean that the design will have to encompass this point. It can be as simple as that, you see, but it's not there. So that is a disappointment, especially in conceptual report. And there is no clear division between conceptual report and also your preliminary design report. So I think it is maybe the way that you are being asked to do. But conceptual report, there must be a very clear division between conceptual report and also a preliminary report. And that's why I was most of the time confused with the numbers that you get. Like you did a cost calculation, and then I wasn't sure that this cost calculation is actually part of conceptual or is it part of preliminary design, you see? So again, I'm confused. You confused me. So when you do that, it's very difficult for me to be able to award you with a good grades, because you are not attracting the examiner. You're not being straightforward and tell the examiner, give it. It's literally you have to put it in my face, but you didn't. It's like most of the time, not only you didn't push it, not only you're hiding it somewhere, it's just like you don't even, the overall reporting doesn't tell me you know what you are doing, you see. It's like when people know what they're doing, even though it's not as smooth, but at least you can see that there's an effort. We can see the flow, we can see the effort, you see. But here, no, we don't get that. For my 6th report, I don't see that at all, okay? And I asked the other 2 lecturers, they are also saying it's the same thing, especially Dr. Lee was saying that she's very confused also. She doesn't know what you guys are doing, that kind of thing, And it's interesting because we have spent a lot of time with you trying to get you to do the steps, the method and all that. And I believe that most of you probably did do the right thing. It's just that in the report itself, there wasn't much indication of your ability or your understanding or your knowledge in telling us this is what you have done. You see, you may have done a lot of things, but it's almost like they're all in the appendix, or you have kept it somewhere, but then you've never write them in the report. That was what we see lah. Okay, and yeah, so like the division between conceptual and preliminary wasn't strong. The translation wasn't clear. The translation is not even there most of the time. And then when we see the preliminary costing and preliminary, when we see the conceptual is like most of the time you guys are doing like how to do the site arrangements and all that. So once you've done that, how do you translate that into your costing? And many of you are like, basically, I don't see any calculation at all. What formula you use, what calculation you use, because conceptual ones are actually basically just analogy, or you can use like the unit, like 1 unit, how much kind of method, you see. So I don't see you analyzing I don't see any analysis of your past historical data. Then after that, from your past historical data for 1 unit, you've already come up with 1 unit and how that 1 unit actually turns out to be your project cost, that one is conceptual. Normally, we will just do an analogy estimate for that. In fact, that will actually cover the entire project, just like that. And I mentioned this to you guys in class. This is what I expect from conceptual report. You're supposed to have finished that, and that has been used as a guideline. Let's say you've already calculated, and that is about including land cost or excluding land cost, or you can have different components like the structure, the overall construction cost is how much, the land cost is how much, the capital contribution is how much, the authority cost is how much, and you can have a few category like in that sense, if you want to. But as long as you've got the construction cost there and the land cost there, normally we will just close one eyes and move on. But if you have all these additional things, I think that would be great. Like that one would actually forms a good picture of the overall cost of the project, not including architectural and M&E, you see. Yeah, so more or less, if you actually get analogy as the overall cost, the overall pricing as the analogy, or the overall cost as the analogy. Sorry, it should be overall cost, not the overall pricing. Sorry, I shouldn't be confusing you. So it's the overall costing. So you've maybe interviewed some people, you've already gone and seek for some advice from the industries, or you've already checked out the surrounding costs for construction and all that. It's cost for construction. So from there, that historical data is set already. So then you actually translate that into analogy, and then that is your analogy, you see, and that analogy is actually going to be times it with your construction cost. And if that analogy include the construction cost, include M&E and architectural, then it's already quite complete. So that translate into your cost is going to be, it will end up to be a lot bigger than what you're going to get in preliminary. Generally, that will be the case. So what happens is, once you've got your conceptual, that will be your reference point. That will be the first reference point already for your study. Then you move on to the second part, preliminary design. And preliminary design, I've already mentioned that I expect the preliminary design or preliminary layout for all the civil works, for example, and the structural work. Obviously, we've also mentioned that, depending on what the structural lecturer tells you, what they expect to see, where the locations of the beam, the columns, and all that, you can actually map it out with the architectural plan that you have in hand. But we haven't actually proceeded to do the whole entire calculation yet. For example, if you have like 6 rows of terrace houses, and there are like 5, 6, 5, 4, there's different combinations. So in fact, for structural, in terms of structures, you will end up calculating, like in the IDP tool, is going to be like calculating every single elements, that sort of things, you see. So, but if you have different combinations, you will have different kind of layout, and different layout. For prelim, you're generally just going to put down where you propose your footings to be, where you propose your wall to be, where you propose your column and beams and slabs, and all that. So then from that one here, if you can just run a simple calculations, or check through with the authority requirement whether whatever that sizes that you're putting down there is actually reasonable, whether it's actually according to the building bylaws, and Then same goes with civil work as well. You probably lay out like these are the where the water pipeline is, these are where the drains are, where is the collection point, and then from the collection point, where is it going to be discharged onto, where's the high point, where's the low point of your site, where the drain will be deeper, where the drain will be sort of like shallower, and in the end, gathering at what point, So you're not exactly asked to do any in-depth calculation at that point in time. Same goes with pipeline, you're proposing based on the authority requirement for a project like this, it has to be 150 mm and more, you see. So then you look at your capacities, you're proposing 150 mm for, in front of all the houses, but then the major trunk where the supply trunk, you put down 250 or 200 mm, So you are actually just proposing the layout and where you're going to put your pillar hydrant. You have to look for bomba to ask for the requirement. And I'm pretty sure you didn't do that, you see. So you guys are just like literally just, freestyle all the way. So that is actually reflected in your report. So once you've done all that, the layout, we expect you to do a preliminary cost calculation, which you can actually use something that is a little bit more detailed, for example, parametric estimates. So you have to get data for the costing for the particular waterworks, for example, and then you've got to get construction costs for road work. So it has to be individual, like it has to be section by section. So in the end, I can see that many of you, in the end, for me, from the report that I see, for preliminary, they kind of like, they gave me one cost which sounds like an analogy estimate, which sounds like a conceptual, and then end up there's another section there that draw a table and they will put down a cost, like, I don't remember, but it was just a table and there's no explanation like where you get the numbers, get the figures from. Like they will put down there 450 mm. $450 per meter cube, for example. But it's 450 dollars per meter cube. I don't see you explaining where it comes from. Is this an analogy estimate, or is this all up rate, or is it parametric estimates? I didn't see anything there. So it was basically like shoving in your face, this is the food that I cook, you eat it or you don't eat it, it's your business, that kind of thing. So I think it can get very annoying when we read reports like that, because we've already tell you that the reporting is very important. You could have done all your calculations in a separate piece of paper in Excel and all that, and then you later on summarize on a table, that's fine. But before you summarize in the table, you can see that your costing bit, your time and cost bit, your project management bit are literally under every section is like almost non-existent. It's almost like less than one page, kind of thing. And then even if it's more than one page, it's only tables and tables and tables. We don't see any explanation at all. Okay, so that is my basic comment, and I think that was really not so good, huh? I mean, like that was really overall what I see from the report, and that makes me give almost everybody less than, I would say less than 60% or 100%. Yeah, because really, if I base it on the report and the rubrics, some part I can't even give you marks because it's not even there, see? But like Dr. Lee says, she's also like closing one eye. For example, you have no conclusion, but we can't give you 0. It just felt like it's so pitiful if we give you 0. So we give you a 1, you see? So that 1, at least you got some marks for conclusion, which is not even there, you see? And yeah, like she mentioned for her group. Let's talk about Dr. Madam Rahaidawan first. She gave me a long list of things that she explained. So first of all, she said Gantt chart, some of you can't even, you're just squeezing everything into an A4 piece of paper. It's good to know how to print it in A3 and then forward into an A4. I mean, very common, right? And you should be using very good printing if you're going to have it colored and all that, because it's literally like we cannot really read, sorry, we're all getting old here. We cannot really read the time duration in your Gantt chart. And some of them just put it in the appendix. And I've already mentioned to everybody, appendix, think about appendix, It's actually when you have a lot of repetitive information, you put it in the appendix. For example, you do repetitive calculation. Then this calculation, you need to summarize or you need to, in a way, present it in a more concise manner in the report. You cannot just say that, give you something and then not even refer to appendix, or some people say refer to appendix, and then your appendix is like pages and pages and pages of don't know what, and there's no link here. And when you put things in appendix, there's no marks. Some people actually, some report that I think we've seen before, I'm not sure whether it's your year or whether it still happened in your way. If you put everything in appendix, and then you actually didn't bother to do anything in the report, you see, so that one is, then we don't give marks to appendix. You always remember, we don't give marks to appendix. We only give marks to report. There's no marks for appendix, okay? No information in the appendix is actually marked, yeah? We only look at your calculation method and then your sample calculations and then your maybe summary table. And if we are unsure, we go to the appendix and see whether, it's being done correctly. Like, that link is there. So appendix is only for the examiner to refer to if they are a little bit unsure, Appendix is not the report, okay? So I'm not sure whether that gets into your head or not because I've mentioned this before, right? So please print it, your summary of your layer 1, for example, or your layer 1, 2, for example. You can put it in the A3 paper, fit it in the A3 and forward. So I hope to see that in your IDP tool. And then for those group, construct less than 60 units of single plus double story, shouldn't exceed 2 years total duration unless they are considering duration starting from land acquisition. So if she's mentioning that if you're only doing 60 units for construction alone, maybe you really should be not looking at anything more than 2 years, okay? More than 2 years, which is fair enough. I mean, this is not about planning, this is about actual construction. Yes, I think if anything less than 60 units or even 50 units and below, you should be looking at about 2 years of construction maximum. So that is a guideline that you probably have to look into. Otherwise, it'll be a bit too slow, okay? And cost estimation, this part here, she was saying that cost estimation, some of the cost estimation is not standardized. Again, yes, the way you format it, the way that you approach it is not standardized. Yes, I did say that some of them you can use analogy estimate, some of them you can use parametric estimate, but the presentation of it, the table at the end of the day must be the same. It's just that the calculation, sample calculation may not be the same, that's fine. Like the formula that you use for road work and the formula that you use for water works, the formula that you use for structural work is different, that's fine. Okay, but then when you summarize it at the end with a table and all that, it has to be the same. You understand? Okay, so don't try to I think the problem is, okay, the project management people, they literally just get the information from the other group members and then they just plug it in, without digesting or without formatting. And I've already mentioned to you since week 1 or week 2, project management people are not sitting there doing nothing, waiting for people to come and give you the information. And then you do the compilation. I mean, come on. So easy. You think project management is so easy, it's like, if project management, if a junior engineer, a design engineer is earning $3,000-4,000 a month, okay, why does a project manager fetch 10,000? Because their responsibilities is a lot more and their job is a lot more, okay? It's just that you guys are treating it the ballet already. You think like, project management, I give it to people who spell structures, I give it to people who don't know how to calculate, and then I'll let you do this, and then these people just end up compiling everything. It's not like that, So compilation needs everybody to be sitting down there together with 6 pairs of eyes looking at the same report, or then maybe like 3 people can do like one part, 3 people do one part, and then you combine them and then you scroll through them again, and I do get a lot of these different format for different parts, even different font for different parts. And it's so interesting that we know that it's just like maybe a combo. Your combo. Your combo is not even tasty. That's the problem. You should have a good combo. Yeah, your combo, the way that you mix your thing, is really a disaster. Okay. All right. So Madam Rahada also mentioned that, print screen, this thing, print screen, start utilizing print in presentable view, not in screenshot, screenshot. Can't even draw a proper one or convert it to something. Yeah, so that one really lost out on formatting. So unprofessional to do that, okay? So you don't screenshot your AutoCAD with a black background. And project background, okay, for IDP2, make sure that you state, yeah, okay, I think this is in the conclusion bit as well, okay? All of us agree that, you guys just don't know how to write a conclusion. Every section should end up with a summary. It's just like your FYP. After every chapter, you have a summary of the chapter. What chapter is all about? I mean, like, what this chapter tells you, basically. You start the chapter with a general section because you're telling that this chapter is going to tell you guys about these sort of things. It tells you about the problem. It will mention about the problem. You discuss on the problem. You discuss on the aim and objective. Then the summary of the section is literally telling you that what you get out of it. So basically, if the summary of the section is like saying that, okay, the column that you get is like this, the beam that you propose should not exceed this sort of size, and the government agency that you are looking at is this, giving you guys this sort of direction, and these are the design results, for example, and with that, the costing for this particular work is estimated to be this much. And if you're more hardworking, you will also write like, as compared to the preliminary design, it will be a little bit more, or as compared to another type of calculation method is a bit less, and that, or as compared to the conceptual report is a little bit more. I mean, that one is if you really are more hardworking, but nobody do that. Okay, so it's literally like you just finish a chapter to stop, and then in the end there's no conclusion, and most of the conclusion is like half a page or maximum 1 page. It's like you don't write conclusion. I don't know why. There's a few report. If I'm not wrong, there's absolutely no conclusion section. So after you finish the project management section, that's it. I flip and flip and flip. I couldn't find conclusion. Conclusion of the whole thing is like, you need to tell us what happened in every component, then what happened in costing, what happened in time, and how long it will take to build, and all that. Okay, so conclusion is very important. Did you achieve the objectives that you set out to do? This report comprises of a conceptual report and preliminary report, and in a conceptual report, we've gotten this. If you're combining these two, but if you're not combining these two, then prelim is a preliminary conclusion, and the conceptual is a conceptual conclusion. And in the coming up, in the coming up sections, IDP2, you also need to have a conclusion. Conclusion got marks on, and you guys just don't want your marks. That's the problem. You know why? So yes, I think the formatting is what Madam Rahida also mentioned. There's the just you is like one whole gang is like somebody tango, somebody cha-cha, somebody walks, and then when the music play, you all do your own thing. And that is literally reflected in the pot of mess that we see in the final work, whereby you don't, even the most standard thing, if what I'm saying is, formatting is like, it's like your face, it's like your face, even though internally, if we don't read carefully, we didn't realize that you didn't do everything the same. But even on the surface, also, you didn't even put a plaster and tell us that everything is the same. At least give us the impression that you guys are doing good work, everything is the same, you see. Then it will lessen the chance of us going to dig further. This is like a technique that you should have, you know. You want to do the surface nicely, at least that, you know, some of us will say, okay, I think they should be okay. Then I don't bother to go and dig for more information. The problem is, you guys, you don't give, you don't do, and then it makes us dig, you know, and when we dig, we find out that you didn't do this, and then, or you do this and you didn't, you know, format it together, or you have a completely different method. There's no synchronization. So the more we dig, the more problem we find, the less marks that we have. Okay, so I think you should learn that. Okay. And I think to Dr. Lee she also mentioned that the first overall that she mentioned was confusion. You know, the first comment is, do you guys know what you are doing? You know, so how do we understand you when you don't even understand yourself, your own word? You know, her comment is exactly the same as me. My comment is, I'm confused. Her comment is, I don't understand. I don't understand what you're trying to do. Okay. So basically, you cannot convince her to give you good marks. And the more detailed ones are like the same as Madam Rohaida, with the addition that cost estimation. Make sure that there's referencing, there's no referencing to your rate as well. Okay, which is, yes, definitely true. This is detail you have to reference, especially for your coming out IDP 2. And then milestone should not have duration. Yes, milestone don't have duration. Milestone is just the part that you indicate that this is finished already, this component is finished already, you're starting a new task or a new group of tasks. So that is milestone. And resources distribution is not well defined and not tally with the main section. Example, earthwork. And project management section. Say you describe earthwork in the earthwork section, and then later on in the project management section, earthwork go missing. We don't see earthwork, it becomes under your tag. So again, like I say, the flow, you know, the way that you do this formatting also is a big issue. Huh? And yes, same comment as me. You don't know, you know, you're playing around with analogy. And then later on, you also have concept preliminary numbers in the costing, and there's no discussion and no clarification on, well, this is analogy, this is parametric, this is whatever. You know, this is you go upgrade. There's no explanation. Okay, there's no explanation on that. Correct? And then we don't know what your numbers means. Is this an analogy? Or is this a conceptual one? Is this or is this a parametric one? Is this parametric one for the conceptual report, or is it or this one is for the prelim report? So it's like we are trying to do a mix and match for you guys. You know, it's like yeah, no conclusion. There's another thing. Yes, agree in again item 5. Yes, conclusion. No, not the same. Okay, so I think that is literally what we have experienced from the reports. Okay. Any questions so far? Anything that you all think that you deserve more marks? I mean, we are very open. We're very open here. You can come and tell us if you want to share your report and tell us that, doctor, just now whatever you said, I have it. How come I don't get the mark? You can show us that if you want to. Yeah, we can explain it to you if you want to. Yes, definitely. Or you can go and see the individual lecturers. Even though we say that, okay, I think Dr. Lee is here as well, Madam Rohaida is here. So we all can agree that if we have done you guys some wrong, you have already do all these things that we say, you know, you think that you have the perfect report, that you didn't make any mistake that we say that you made, you can come and see us and show us your report again. And it really is because of our own mata juling, okay, or you know, it's about us marking you that, you know, we give you unfairly that you should have deserved an A, but we give you a C, for example. We cannot change your IDP 1 mark, you know, but we can find ways to give you back the marks in IDP2. That's what we can do. We don't, in our group, in our PM group, I wouldn't say repeat that for any other groups, for example, structures and water and all that. That one you need to talk to them. But for us, it's like if we really have done you wrong, because we are quite confident with what we see. We've actually gone through, days, 1 or 2 days, 2 days, 6 reports we've gone through at least like 1 day, minimum 1 day. Two afternoons at least to look at your report and give you the marks and do the marking and all that. So it's not something that we take lightly at all. So we are quite confident in the marks that we get, that you get, but obviously we are not perfect as well. In case that there is a minimum chance of we are not, we have done that imperfection and do you some injustice, we are very prepared to actually correct that for you. I mean, we cannot correct for IDP1 because the IDP1 mark is already there, but we can actually factor in something during IDP2 in a way. Look at your report because we likely be looking at the same report. Not likely, we should be looking at the IDP1 report, me 1 to 6, and Rohaida, 7 to 12, and totally the last 6. Okay. So knowing that already, maybe you can actually talk to us a little bit more so that we know what you're doing, and as we go along, don't disappear from us, and then come here just because you need us to sign that thing, that logbook thing. Everybody just wants us to sign logbooks. Nobody actually bothered to ask us really what we actually wanted. I mean, yes, we get some questions, especially during PM class. After the class, I do get a lot of questions, but that is only from certain individuals, and many individuals just completely disappear. They never show up, you see. There's 18, but I never see 18 different faces looking for me, you see. So it was always like that few guys, that few person talking to me about their work and all that. And none of you, zero, literally zero. I'm not sure about the other 2 lecturers. I don't see any one of you actually showing me your report or showing me your work or showing me your calculation even during the whole entire semester. I don't get to see your report at all until the day it was on the table or even part of the report. Some of you did show me like maybe, your land, the way that you put in your layout, you did show me your site utilization. Yes, that is it. But then it's like you don't show me the actual calculation. Only calculation with the land cost. I think some people show me that calculation on the land cost. But on the infrastructure, water, I don't see any people showing me on the calculation of water pipeline cost or I don't even see a Gantt chart even. Even if I did see, it was probably an incomplete one as well. Okay, so I think yeah. Any question? Anything you want to mention? Only 50 people attending. You get what I mean? You guys are asking for a briefing, asking me why you get low marks, and then 50 people attended. Well, tell me, you deserve good marks. So I will assume that the people who are here today are actually concerned about their marks. So anyone wants to, why did I stop my recording? Share screen. Dr. Lee and Rohaida, you have anything you want to share on IDP1? Anything else?
So far, it's up to what already explained just now, Dr. Ting. Just I want to add up on the site utilization. Okay, what I mean with don't screenshot is especially the one who produced in the AutoCAD with the black background. Okay, so what happened when you print it out? Okay, for example, some of the legend shows 2 items in dark blue or blue color. So this dark blue and blue color, if you use black background, it will looks alike, more
Yeah,
or less the same. While you know that AutoCAD, if you print it out properly, it should the color, the background can be changed to white.
mm,
Okay. Yeah. So I hope you understand lah what with Dr. Ting mentioned just now. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. And macam tadi lah, Gantt chart should shows all the WBS. Okay. Bukan just show the substructure, superstructure up until 2 level is enough. Ada yang very short,
oh, okay. But
Yeah.
this one I can explain for them. If they are doing it for preliminary,
Yeah.
I did mention to them because if some of the works are not very clear yet, because it's only in the preliminary design.
Okay.
So I say that
So,
I did tell them that it's okay to be a bit more brief lah in that sense lah. Yeah.
okay, all right. But make sure they presented in proper view lah, bukannya duration is blur. Sometimes I also cannot see the activities clearly.
Yeah.
The activities and the number of duration also cannot be seen clearly because some of the group print it out in grayscale. Grayscale punya ni printing. Yeah. Okay,
I
that's it
think
lah.
for work breakdown, you should have actually do a work breakdown, even though it's not so many layers, let's say it's only level 1 and 2, you guys should have done that level, in the reporting itself, there should be a section on work breakdown structure, and you list down, in the floor chart format or in the table format, your layer 1, layer 2, you can even add in layer 3 to be further determining, things like that, in when the design get more specific. So that is way that you can actually communicate with the examiner in that sense lah. So like, if we're just going to see it in your Gantt chart, and then we don't see it in the report itself, then your Gantt chart is also print out like so tiny, and so blurrish, we can't even see the activity. So I think that one is not right lah, huh?
Because they screenshot, I can see that from the previous work lah. And then Dr. Ting, should they show the critical activities? I mean, in the Microsoft project, they can just click on the one, there's a one button, then
No.
automatically no need to show the critical path activities, yeah?
If they do critical path, it's expected from them in IDP 2 when the system gets more complete, they have to draw themselves the network.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
never get them to do an auto.
So no need to show lah.
No need.
Okay lah, alright. So if that is the case, I think they can just print it out in black and white lah, no problem lah. Otherwise, if have to show the critical activities in Microsoft project, also can just click this one button lah, and then all the critical activities will shown in red color. But it's okay if this is not necessary, then no need lah. Okay. So black and white is enough also lah.
Because
The Gantt chart.
we get them to do a proper network and study the critical activity, not based on Microsoft project. Because when they base it on Microsoft project, how it back out, they don't understand. So we never get them to when we teach them in PM, we don't get them to use that function.
Yes. Suppose they come out with their own CPM first.
Yes.
That is the right way lah, actually. Conventional from CPM and then transfer into Microsoft project. That is the right way. But some I notice they directly use Microsoft project. They don't even do the CPM. That's why the total duration is not tally with what they really try to get for the project. For example, they want to make it in 2 years, but they don't really get the total duration in 2 years. It can be more than that because they also didn't adjust the public holiday working hours, some sort like that lah.
So you're saying that they are actually doing it in when they draw the Gantt chart, supposedly they draw the Gantt chart and then determine the duration gun.
Yeah.
In
The
this case, they set the duration and then the Gantt chart doesn't tell you, is it?
I noticed the Gantt chart, some of them they can just easily key in the predecessor, the successor activities, the predecessor activities. While it will not build up the right total duration. It can be longer, you know. That's why the right way to do is always come out with CPM first, then transform in the Microsoft project. So then they
Yeah.
can eliminate the float, the total
Yeah.
float, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. So meaning that it's
They cannot see the float if they directly key in the Microsoft project. If they start with calculating manually CPM and then transform into the Microsoft project, then they will get exactly the total duration they want.
okay.
Macam
If
tu
that's
lah.
the case, then we set this for IDP 2 lah, huh? Yeah, because IDP 1, I did tell them that because preliminary, I'm just expecting you to draw a Gantt chart and tell me that the estimated duration, because the maximum that they need to go to is just layer 2 maybe. Yeah.
Okay. So until IDP 2, they will come out until the 4th level.
Yeah,
Right?
start at 4th level. Yeah.
Okay lah.
Okay.
Right.
So I think thanks Rahada. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how from you?
I think most of the thing has been explained. Actually, Microsoft projects can show the total float. Just students need to add in a column. All right, add in the column to show the float time.
Time. Okay. So we ask them to do that for IDP.
Right.
So I think Dr. Lee and Madam Raida here also, they already mentioned the requirement for time now for IDP 2. So before that, you need to do anything. Before you need to do the time Gantt chart, okay, you need to work out on the resources. Okay, that is the must. And you need to do your resources planning for all your activities. And I think up to this point in time, the PM people can already proceed to do this part. I don't see there's any reason why you should wait for the design to complete for you to do the format in your planning format in your Excel worksheet. Okay. It's all rubbish when you just tell me that you are waiting for your group member to give you the information. What information? You've already got the preliminary design. You can have a format to spread your resources. Yes, you may not know the quantity, the exact quantity in the end, but with the preliminary report, you can actually get the preliminary quantity already. So with the Excel, it's just basically changing the numbers later when the final quantity is here. So, and with the prelim one that you've already got, like, I do not think that, if let's say prelim, you calculate that there's going to be like 6 pillar hydrant and 2 5 Swiss valve, and then you've got like 2 kilometers of pipe. I do not think that in your concept, in your final design report, this thing is going to double or triple or even be more than 50% of whatever that you've done in your prelim report. So in fact, the use of your resources to be based on your prelim report is actually doable. It's just that there may be extra of 10%, 20%, then you decide whether you want to add one more machines or you want to add in one more gang of manpower. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. So there's nothing to stop you from basing on your preliminary design report, to do your resources planning first. So once you've done your resources planning, like one spreadsheet on how much machines, which machine to use for which particular activity, and how many machines is there, that you are allocating to that particular work, with that machine, what is the manpower, what are the material, these are the three major resources that you need, you see. So you've got to do that first. So once you've done that, then isn't that every machines and the manpower itself will actually have a productivity rate, okay? And this productivity rate, for example, where you get your productivity rate? So this productivity rate, you have to maybe, interview people, or you can talk to some contractor. It's just as simple like how many can you do in a day, or how many bricks can you lay in a day, how many concrete can we pour in a day, with this sort of machinery available, the location of the site is like this, So there is nothing wrong about productivity rate unless it's super unreasonable. Say you can do like thousands of meter cube per day with just one machines or with just one truck or something like that. So it has to be reasonable, you see. And one day working is only 8 hours, and minusing off, the downtime, minusing off the resting time, minusing off tea breaks and all that, probably only get people really working, under hot sun. Maybe some people need to go for a rest. They will slow down their work and all that. You be about 6 to 7 hours, 6.5 to 7 hours of real working time on site. You based on that logic, you also can see whether your productivity rate is actually reasonable or not, you see, especially those that are working under the hot sun or under the weather condition. That is what we have here. So let's say raining, you probably can do less. So overall, you know what it's supposed to, you should have an idea what it's supposed to be. Too much. So in that limit, a range is fine. Let's say one group says that, their main layer can lay 100 bricks a day, and then the other group says theirs can lay 120 bricks a day. We are not, the three of us will have a consensus that there is no standard answer to productivity rate, It's based on different company, it's based on different people, it's based on different machine, different brands of machine. Some cars actually run faster. If you're going to race a Ferrari and a Ganche, obviously the Ganche is not going to run as fast as a Ferrari. So if you actually have a Ferrari, you're going to be a lot faster. It's fine, So it's basically working on the basis of your organization relative to your organization. So your productivity, I do not want people to keep on coming up to me and say, but it's productive. I from this, is this correct? Or I get from this REM, is it correct? I get from CEM, is it correct? I get from CID, is it correct? There is no such thing as correct or not correct to your productivity rate. There's only logic or not logic, reasonable or not reasonable. So if you say that one guy says I can do 80, one guy says I can do 120, it's like saying that human fastest is this much, human slowest is this much. As long as you're within this range, it's fine. Okay. So but put references of where you get your productivity rate from. Maybe it's from a previous construction site, maybe it's from interview with subcontractors with the different company, So you can actually footnote it, at the end of them with a tiny little thing, say that this is actually from where you get the productivity rate. So from the productivity rate, you all know how to do calculation of the productivity rate. I've seen that in your PM assignment. Some group actually present that quite well. So I've already give you the carry marks for PM assignment, the group assignment. You can see that some people got A-, some people got A. So you probably did almost you almost did a good job there already. Yeah. So you should continue that good job and see what to do to improve and get even better marks. So from there, your productivity rate, you calculate there's a time attached, so that means that particular activity under these particular circumstances, under this particular construction circumstances and this construction team or these people or these machineries that you have in your hands, this is the time that you need to complete this particular task. Okay, so you've got all your duration, and we are not even asking you to think further and ask you to factor it up or factor it down, or saying that, you know, because this particular activity you are working under January to March, December to March, there will be plentiful of rainfall, and that will actually reduce your productivity, you know, or that will actually factor down the duration a little bit more, and you will need more time to do this and all that. Or, you know, some people discuss on site conditions, you know, your site especially very muddy, you may have a issue with piling. So under piling, you actually do a bit of factoring, a bit of risk management in it to see what can happen to lengthen your time. We are not even asking you for that. I mean, if you can give that to us, that would be like, wow, we are clapping our hands, you know, standing ovation, we will send you fireworks, you see. So I'm like, if you can do that, that is a short pay already, because you actually give it some thought, you see. But to do whatever is being assigned to you, that is like coming up with the duration based on productivity rate, is already what we call meet your requirement. You know, so meet your requirement, you're floating, depending on how well you meet your requirement now for every part, then that is the B plus, A minus, A kind of results, you know, that you're looking at. So then when we have that productivity rate, what do you do? You see, so what you come up with the duration. So what do you do with the duration? So do you want to re-look at the duration, reconsider that duration? You know how interesting that some people, you know, some of the senior actually wrote me a 4 page about risk management, and then, you know, it's a complete theory of risk management, and then put it in the report, but I did not see risk calculation for anything at all. Like, I don't see an overall risk profile that comes out from that particular writing. So I'm here to teach you to be a parrot. Okay, so meaning that I say hello, you also say hello. I say risk management, you also say risk management. No, you know, you only things down, not for a page filler. You know, if you're doing that, your page filler, it's not going to get you any marks, but it's going to make us really, really annoyed and very, very irritated, because what are you trying to do here? You know, it's like, if you don't write, I don't even know that you don't know. When you write, I can see that you don't know. It's like you're exposing all your weaknesses in your report to us. Yeah. So once you've got that, you know, you've got your calculation on duration, then it's about your Gantt chart. It's about your Gantt chart. You cannot go and jump and do your cost now yet. Okay, I mean, like, after your duration, you cannot go and do your cost first. So your Gantt chart, how do you do your Gantt chart? So the requirement here is, Madam Rohada, I already tell you, with the activity available, go and do yourself the CPM first. You know, draw your CPM, get your longest critical path, get your duration, get all your calculation done first. And then from there, with the duration that you have, okay, so with the duration that you have, go and align your CPM first. Why? Because CPM actually tells you the flow of the sequences. That's number one. So instead of you guys go straight to the Gantt chart and then decide this flow with this flow with this is your predecessors, it gets very messy, because your Gantt chart can be like 3 or 4 pages. So then you don't know which one should link to which, and then you go back, scroll up and down, you're going to miss some points and all that. So why don't you draw your CPM first, get your calculation, you know, use the duration that you calculate that, and then do your CPM, and then after that, do your critical path, do your float and all that, and take all this information and do it in the Gantt chart. And the Gantt chart is like a presentation of your time. It's basically a presentation of your time. Okay, so it's more for presentation purpose. So then, if you hear the word for presentation purpose, it must be clear. It must be very easy to read. It must be big enough for all people like us, you know, not to take out our magnifying glass and try to read every single thing. Yeah. So make it a nicely presented, colored if you want, nice thick papers if you want, you know, give it an overall respect that it should deserve, you know, in that sense. You know, we want to make it nice, you see. Then after that, from the Gantt chart, you've already got, you know, your float and all that, you know, and then you can, if you want to go and replan your resources, which I would like you to do, but I'm pretty sure some people would not be able to do that. Well, it's up to you. That can be a bonus marks. Okay, let's say if you can, from your Gantt chart, you want to, from the float and all that, you want to replan your resources. You want to do a resources histogram, you want to do a resources leveling or resources smoothing activities, you know, do that. Oh, that would be, wow, that would be like, again, fireworks, you know, like clap hands, standing ovation, get A+, you know. So yeah, if you want to do that, that is good, you know, we will enjoy that. But if you don't do that, we will not penalize you for that, okay? So Dr. Lee and Ada, we won't penalize them if they don't go to that kind of extent, but at least they must know that with the float and everything, there may be a change in time. There may still be a possibilities of changing the activity time. So they may need to readjust the time. And if they don't want to readjust the time for their own reason, again, justification. Dr. Lee and I always talk about, you guys don't give justification. Yeah. Like you don't fight for your own case, you know, because you don't know what you're doing. That's the problem. You know, if you know what you're doing, you know, you can come and convince us or write it in the report a justification that says that we will be using this particular time, we will not adjust this time, even though there's some float or whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, I mean, like sorry, what I mean is like it matters if you are not doing, if you want to stick to your original time, you can explain, you know, but then if you don't write like that also, it's just too bad, you know, it's just too bad, you know, it's not going to affect much, like as in we are not going to be so criticizing over that, see? But again, you have to be able to show, the meta bit is the part that you show us that, you know, you actually understand that after you've done the Gantt chart, after you know, CPM, after you've done the Gantt chart, after you know the float, there is a chance that you may want to adjust the time because there is some float time, and that is based on the resources that you have and all that. If we don't see that linkage, yes, we will not penalize you. It's just that we know that you are not up there yet. You are not that qualified yet. I mean, you're not that knowledgeable yet. You know, there's some parts missing here. But if you do that, it will tell us that, wow, you know, you actually understand everything, yeah? So if not that, at least you write a justification, okay, this time, this duration, this final duration, we'll set this as the final duration, and this final duration will be impacting your costing. Yes?
Tumni ko po tong ikon garis saka lawan. Then yang pende-pende ikaw lawan.
Okay.
Sorry, doctor.
So aircon guy coming, is it? Right. So yes, you can have so you use that for your costing, because your costing, a big portion of it is to look at your resources, the quantity of your resources times with the time, times with the rate. And again, I think all of you can do that. Material quantity times with the rate. Machineries quantity is basically the rate, the quantity and the time and the rate, you see. So moving on to that, labor is the same as well. So labor is the quantity bit, is the time with the quantity times by the rate, okay? And again, these labor resources here, you know, once you've done your first draft of costing work, you know, is there something that you want to adjust or you want to stick it to where it is? That's fine as well. It doesn't matter, you know, like let's say you want to rethink about your resources, and then you can actually rethink about your resources. Maybe it's too expensive, you want to cut down on certain things, you know, if you can, there's still room for adjustments at this point in time. in terms of cost planning. You're all at planning stage, so that's still okay. Again, justifications, if you need to. Then we flow on into rate, and a lot of you will be asking me, oh, where do I get my rate from? Where do I get my rate? It's the kind of thing that we hear every semester. So yeah, I mean, you get your rate from, you need to get from the latest market rate because there has been a lot of pricing adjustments for the past 1 year, especially last half of the year. So things are not as cheap, as it previously is. If you're so hardworking, you could actually go and interview, set up a list of items and go to a hardware store or go to a shop, that is quite popular, and then sit down there and actually do a market survey. I'm like, I am just imagining, how creative you can be or how hardworking you can be, But you could actually go to a hardware store and say that, how much does it cost for formwork now? I'm a student here, I want to know the costing. I'm doing a survey on this, It can be done like that. Why not? You have the time now, the PM people, you have the time now. Okay, so then you can have a list of the most recent market rate. So on the other hand, you can actually borrow some BQs or borrow some schedule of rates from the very latest project that has been awarded, let's say from a friend or from a contractor, like maybe last year December, one of your friend or your parents or your brothers or your auntie, they have an award of a contract by somebody. Then inside there is definitely a section on schedule of rates and BQs and all that. But that one has to be treated with a lot of care because it's relative to their project. That's number one. Number two is not as clean as getting a quotation. Why? Because when contractor pump in numbers for bills of quantity, they may pump in certain rates, certain portion higher, and certain portion a lot lower due to the fact that it's their strategy of winning the tender. So they may be adjusting the rates here and there and not really reflecting whatever that is in real life. So BQs is something that you have to be very careful with. And schedule rate in a contract as well, it also can be, you must treat it with a pinch of salt as well because it may not be as it represents. Why? Because if I'm a contractor, I know that my piling, definitely this side, I will do more than 2 lengths of piles. I may purposely put that piles at a lot higher the rate, or if I cannot see the material, because material rate is very standard, you can actually quote it from elsewhere, but I can put in my machine rate a lot higher, my labor rate a lot higher, due to the fact that I have a good chance of doing this, you see, so I want to make money. So I'll put higher because I know that it will be more than 3 lengths or there'll be 4 lengths, that probably minimum 4 lengths going down instead of whatever that is provision there, that is 2 lengths, you see. So it is cost strategies by different contractors. So again, it's very relative to the organization, it's very relative to the people that are actually doing this. So we cannot take it as it is. You can take it for assignment purpose. We probably would not be too criticizing over that. But just be very, very careful. If you have some standard rates that you already got from, say, online, on JKR or CIDP, when you take the rate from the contract, you go like, oh, that's right. Why is it so high? You have to question, It's just like you guys doing conceptual and preliminary. You guys don't question your rate. Whatever is being fit to you, you just plug it in, And then some of them actually in the presentation, I saw some presentation inside some groups on the same item, they end up with 2 different final numbers. And you go like, oh, how much is it again? It's like I just now that side say that you're getting 17 million, and then the other side say that you're only using 8 million for structural costs. It's like, why the big difference, you see? So again, that will be questioned to you. Like if you're using 2 methods, you have to decide at the end of the day which method to present. You cannot say that I use 2 methods and then I present both methods, and then you yourself cannot explain Why does method A present, why does method A come up with 17 million and then method B come up with 8 million, you know? So again, you are exposing your weakness again. So you only do that if you want to give us a good argument and then end up choosing which one, and then we give you another fireworks. So, but it's not like that, you see. And you ask them like, why you got two different rates? And then they say, this one, you know, not so sure, you know, not so sure in the end. Oh, it's not so sure. And she's like, calculation, this formula give me this, don't you question? Don't you guys fourth year, 22, 23, 24 years old? Your brain are not developed enough to understand that when there's a difference, you need to ask question, man. No, Viva, huh? So yeah, you cannot take things as it is. So be very careful when you're using different rates, different rates. So the rates is an issue here that we want to see you presenting as well, you know, like where you get the rates from, and if there's a differences in rates, how do you make a rate adjustments and use the final figure if you want to do rate adjustments. Okay. So if you want to stick to one method, like these people who got like one is 8 million for structure, 8 million, and then the other one after calculation is 17 million, you know, if I were you, I would just take one and argue my tooth until bleeding. Also, I will argue that this method is the correct one. Then you actually stand a better chance of getting good mark. Instead of giving two and then don't know what this two is all about. If you say that I will use 17 million because of this reason, even though we know that you are bluffing, we will only keep it to ourselves. We know you are bluffing and try not to tear you apart, okay? Because you are trying very hard to convince everybody that this method is correct. So please be standard, please be determined in one way, you know, that would be the best for you all, okay? If you understand what I'm trying to say, okay. And please help me to explain if you don't even understand what I'm trying to say. Right. So I think in terms of quality, the next thing is site utilization, which you've already done. In terms of quality management, I think you all also need to show us that for different works, what is your QA/QC measure? And that QA/QC measure is not just about copying somebody's specification and give it to us. It's about coming up with a nice flow chart about which part of it needs to be testing, and then it fails, what is the limit of the test, it fails, what sort of material you need to get, and what sort of standards that you need to input. You know, you can explain each activity, each section of the work with a flow chart, and that would be very nice to explain on your QA/QC. And overall safety also, I think there are standards. I think Ada can expand on that. There are some standards for you to follow for a construction site, and you must map out your safety plan based on the activities that you have. So maybe structural work, you must have certain safety elements or whatever that you need to input. For structure, for civil works, what are the safety measures that you need to input? You know, you can do a table or a chart or something like that to show us your show us that, okay, these are the requirements from CIDP, or these are the requirements from OSHA, you know, and then from there we are actually adopting these particular sections, and then from here, these are the work that we are, these are the safety measures that we are putting in. And it's just not like, I give you one list of safety measure, I must have road sign, and the sign is like this, like this, and then I must have safety gear, it's like this, you know, it's like, it's always like this, you know, it's always like this. And how to give you marks like this, you know, it's just like, it's so standard, you know, it's not project relative at all. Some of you are building shop blocks, some of you are building houses, some of you are building double stories, some of you are single stories. You know, you all have different kind of works there that will probably require different sort of safety measures. And how do you do safety checking and all that? Is there a plan for it? Like, we don't see that as well. So yeah, IDP 2 will see that. So from QA/QC to safety.
Can I add something on the safety just now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, student, please. Most of you always state PPE, safety helmet, this color, that color, yellow color. These are commonly you can just simply get from the Google. We don't want to see this. Okay, we want to see some sort of code of practice like Malaysian standard MS 1722, the latest version. Not really latest. I can see from Google is 2011. Okay, Malaysian standard 1722. That is actually referring to OSHA 1994, OSHA Occupational Safety and Health 1994, OSHA Occupational Safety and Health Acts. Yeah. So this is actually focused by the client. Okay, the clients want to see the element of safety management for the project. Otherwise, student, you always put, okay, safety helmet color ni kuning untuk pekerja, the white color for engineer, supervisor. Every year is always the same thing, every semester, no? So in Malaysian standard, it's stated the code of practice, the guideline, the plan, do, check, act, like what Dr. Ting mentioned just now. Okay. Also, you also can refer to NIOSH as well. NIOSH, NIOSH. Yeah. At least there are a little bit of guideline. You can include in the report. Okay,
I
Dr.
think the
Ting.
major
Yeah.
problem that all these students have is they don't have that curiosity. They don't have that urge to search for information. It's like whatever is not in my fingertip, I don't bother. You know, I cannot bother anything that is not on my fingertip. My fingertip means what? My fingertip means that if I click on the website, I can find. Then they will tell you, doctor, I found it. But if they cannot find it on the website, it means that, doctor, there's no information available. That is their style. And then after that, the other thing by fingertip is if the notes are not given, if you don't give them the notes, you don't give them the standard, you don't give them the NIOS, you don't give them the doc, they say that the information is not available. You see? So
Yeah.
it's not in the notes. Why they give you all this safety and all these pictures? Because it's in the notes. They see it in the notes, they copy the notes. Okay? So that is very, very harmful for you guys, because in the future, if you don't have that getting out of your comfort zone, that particular way, attitude of getting out of the comfort zone, for example, calling people up, calling the council up. The council tells you that, oh, we don't have this information. Then you ask further question like, who do you think would be able to answer me on this matter? Then you go and ask further, dig further, and find more. They just don't have that kind of extra, it's like, if I can't find it online, I don't find it in the notes, then so it's like did anybody actually ever bother calling up NREV, calling up NIOSH, calling up those, and say, I'm a student, I'm doing my project, and I'm actually a civil engineering student, I want to learn more about these things, do you have any information that you can give us, and all that. We hardly see that. Not anymore. I think the worst is after MCO. And I think the factors that after MCOs, they are all in that kind of mood. If anything is not online, we don't know where to get it. All the students that I have previously, few generations past, yeah, they do. They actually go to water board as a group. They go to councils as a group, and they sit down with the engineers to ask them questions and all that. So I think, yeah, like what Madam Rohaida is saying, that you have to, look at the quotes, the references, the standards, the acts, and all that. And then from the acts, from the OSHA acts, Occupational Health and Safety Act, from the from DOSH, from NIOSH, maybe they have certain ways of carrying out, especially NIOSH, they actually train people in terms of how to do the work safely kind of thing. Let's say if you're doing scaffolding, if you're on the scaffolding, what do you do on the scaffolding and all that? They actually have standards for that kind of things. So if you really ask and they don't want to give is another story, you know. But if you don't even ask, then you never know and never find out. Then you will never be able to get a good assignment, you see. So I hope that you guys can, you know, pick up on that, especially IDP 2. I'm pretty sure you guys are doing a lot less subjective semesters, and I think you have a lot of time that you can actually move around, go out and get more information. But when you do get those information, you have to also tell us that you make an effort. You know, don't be shy. You know, don't be malu. Don't be, yeah, I don't want to say lah. You know, it's okay lah. You know, it's not like that. You have to put it in your report. This information are obtained through interviews with, you know, NIOSH officer. Then we know that you actually do it. You know, this is not a time to be shy. Okay. Right. So I think safety and all that. I think that's what we cover. I think these 4 elements is probably enough for you to makan already lah until the end of the semester. I mean, I would personally like you to actually discuss on the contractual, on the procurement systems that you would probably want to set up for this particular project, which is supposed to be very important as well. Yeah, so yeah, why not? You know, if you can write about, you know, your project characteristic and after the design, after the cost, and after the time, after all the quality and safety requirements, you know, you tell us that, you know, which procurement strategy is the best. For example, are you going to go for traditional general contracting? Would it be a better if it's design and build, or would it be better if it's like, let's say, a partnership between the developer and the contractors? You know, you can suggest a lot of things as well. I mean, like, we will see. Okay, I mean, at the moment, I wouldn't want to put that down as the requirement yet. We'll see how you go. I mean, if there's some group that is doing really well and they have the potential of doing that, maybe we can put up this as a bonus that we can give to them. You know, if they actually write a nice conclusion and a nice wrapping up on procurement systems that they can put forward for the project, I think we are very happy to give you extra marks on that. Okay. But the basic is the 4, the time, cost, quality, safety, plus the site utilization. And risk management is actually slot in between the 4 of them. If you want to do a risk management or overall risk profile planning, that's fine. That is also a bonus for you. Procurement is also a bonus for you. Okay. Anything else you guys want to add on? The students, any questions?
Ada ni, Dr. Ting dalam chat box.
Oh.
Ace Ketten AC Ketten. Tak tahu macam mana nak pronounce.
Ace. A
Hmm.
boy or girl? Ace, are you a guy or a girl?
Guy, doctor.
Guy, huh? You know why I asked this? Because I've always thought that it's a girl, you know. And then yesterday when IR William actually looked to that direction and said, Ace, I remember Ace. I mean, I remember you, Ace. And I was saying that area is sitting a guy there. He's a guy or a girl? Finally, I had a question mark. Okay. Finally, I knew Ace is a guy. Mr. Ace, not Miss Ace. Do we still need to detect the WVS until level 3? No, architecture and M&E always I put down there as maybe maximum layer 2. At M&E, you can put in things like plumbing, toilet, sewage systems and all that, but you don't have to go to detail like how many toilet bowls, you know, and how many pipes and all that kind of things. No, yeah. M&E work and architectural work, maximum layer 2. Okay? Ace, Mr. Ace.
All right, Prof.
All right, so I hope to see you guys looking up for us. Madam Rahida is back already, so she is basically in action. So yeah, you can go and look for her because she'll be marking you after all. Yeah, so to be fair, then Dr. Lee will also be marking, your own groups. So go and talk to her. Overall, everybody still can come and talk to me if you want. There's no problem. 1 to 6, better you come and talk to me lah, Anything else? If not, then we will call it a day. Yeah. Dr. Lee, you have anything you want to add on?
Just a very short one. Yeah, I think most of the things Dr. Ting already covered. Hopefully everybody's aware. I can say aware on it. All right. Another thing is just now I forget to add on is about consistency of the reports presentations. I think some of the things Dr. Ting and Brandon Huida already mentions. I just want to add on a bit. Like especially the table, all right, the table, in IDP 1, so it should not have supposedly tak ada BQ lagi lah. So what I mean here is like the consistency. I mean, you guys are with different discipline, all right? One of you doing geotech, one of you doing foundations, one of you doing the RC, one of the drainage, water education. Each of the discipline there, you have a different person on doing it, all right? But when it group the data into the project management part, for most of the reports that have been seen, only the RC groups, okay? Only the RC group, I mean the tables on the costing and so on, the details is much more tally with what presented in the project management punya, sections. So I actually doesn't know what is happening to other people's all right, other group, other students that doing the geotech, doing the foundations, doing the traffic, all right, I mean the informations, right? You compile the informations into your project management, but some things that it is not tally with what you present in your each of the sections. That's why sometimes we are actually quite frustrated when reading on it, which one we should look at it. So I hope IDP 2, all right, project manager, jangan sahaja pandai compile, all right? Jangan compile sahaja, look at it. You are the project manager, please look at it. Okay, jangan main compile, lepas tu hantar. Then this is what will be reflected at your reports. And then, of course, it will be reflected towards your marks. Some things like I want to add on, that's all.
Yes, so it's not only PM part, I think also the way that you present the calculation part as well for the different works as well. I see a lot of varying formats people, in the same group, So people do the structure calculation, you use the different way of writing, and then after that the civil people use a different way of calculating. I mean, like, yes, definitely there's different way of calculating, different formulation and all that, but if it's table, then try to stick everything with table. If it's like a calculation sheet, you want to show one calculation sheet, then every section must show a calculation sheet. That would be better that way. So there's a consistency. That's what Dr. Lee means by consistency in the report. When you do it for one thing, you also must do it for another thing. So don't have this information, for example, you use like up rate, and then the other one, yes, you can use a different rate, different way of calculation, but at least the calculation bit is the same. But when you show your summary bit, is the part that it has to be the same. The calculation can be different, but then the way that you write the calculation or the way that you present the calculation should be the same. The information that you put in one part should also be in another part, for example. Let's say here you say that based on the authority requirement, these are the reason why you want to use this. But then on the other section, in another works, it doesn't happen again. And then worse is you do it here in this section. For example, like let's say the authority says you must use 150 mm pipes in minimum. But then later on in the calculation, you guys are showing like 100 mm parts, 100 mm parts, and then finally you say 100 mm. So there's a differences in the consistency of the material that you are actually putting up here. So yeah, be consistent now. You cannot be just a compiler. Hey, so quiet, you all, anything else? Not then we cabut already, We will
So
also
make
have
sure.
yeah,
So
we
semua
also
orang
have
tahu what to do already.
yeah, no question means that they all know what to do already lah. Okay. So certainly, I don't know how to unshare my screen. It's here. So suddenly, yeah, unshare my screen. Supposed to be share, right?
Yeah, your screen is still sharing with the QR attendance.
Yeah, I want to unshare. What's the function of unsharing? Never mind. Okay. You are not valid anymore. Okay, lah. If we no questions, then we move out, lah, huh? We need to go and do. It's already 1.5 hours. We also need to go and do other things as well.
All right,
thanks.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Dr. Lee and Ada. Yeah.
All right, no problem. Thanks.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
You'll see you guys. Is still okay? The QR code.
Yes.
Screen freeze, is it? It cannot be paused. What is this pause doing here? Suddenly I've lost track. My brain seems to have a freeze for some reason. Oh, resume sharing. Okay. All right. Suddenly press post. Okay, can. Can you still key in? Can, right? 53, yeah, okay. 54. Yeah, actually post the screen. How clever is that? All right, see you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof.
See
Thank you, Prof.
you all in class next week. No more, huh? Okay, I off, huh?
Prof, I
Mhm.
still cannot get.
Wait on. What is your attendance? What is your student number?
It's 69276.
Okay, done.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Bye-bye.
Bye.